Welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Porch Podcast. You are joined by Ricky, Chris, and myself, your friendly nerds. And today on the porch, we are going to be talking about aliens. Do they exist? UFO sightings, top secret projects, random shit. And we're going to have a good time doing it. But first, let's catch up with the guys and see what they've been up to this week. Chris, we're going to start off with you first. What have you been up to?
Dude, so much. It has been a crazy week. So we finally got moved up to the property on Tuesday night. Yeah, late Tuesday night. We finally left the hotel room and got moved up here. We had power, but no water. We just got running water yesterday. So
Who needs water, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, my dude. Doing cadet showers with a bottle of cold water is not something I felt like doing in my 30s, but I did it anyway. That was very unenjoyable. I mean, I don't know, like, it's one of those things, like, you take for granted. Like, you turn the faucet on and there's water there, you know, like, man.
Especially, like, hot water.
Yeah, like, hot water, especially while it's cold. Like, we'd go outside and do things like, I want to take a shower, but you can't. So, yeah, we just got that hooked up. I mean, the reason for that was, of course, we have a well. You have to do treatment for well water. You can't just use water straight out of the ground. So we had to wait for a company to do a test and then to hook us up with a special filtration system for our water. Anyway, got that all hooked up, which is nice. And now we can start working on other projects when money becomes available. Did you know how much water filtration systems cost? Like $3,000.
Jesus,
but,
I know. When we bought the house, that's like, hey, you guys qualify for a brand new water treatment system. Blah 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 blah. Since you're new homeowners, and I'm just like, no.
It's expensive, man. But like, I guess the alternative is we don't have a monthly water bill, so I guess it kind of pays off, right? Yeah, internet sucks right now. We're about to get that fixed, so it's like, I don't know, like moving. Even though we're here now, it's like we're still not moved in completely. There's still stuff we got to do, and it's like tons of little projects that have to get done before we get back to like normal everyday life.
So your internet, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to be able to get like are you guys going to have to still do off like the 4G, you know, tower stuff, or can you get a line run?
Yeah, so here's the thing. We sit exactly 2 miles from each of the two cities between us. So we're between two cities. We're 2 miles on either side of those. So each internet stops 2 miles from our property on either side of this road.
No.
Damn.
So the only thing we could do is DSL, which would be somehow worse than what we're currently doing. So either there are lots of government whatever funding where they're trying to get better internet out to rural areas, and there was a bill put through for a town close to us, but not our exact town. So either the government's gonna fix it or Starlink is gonna fix it when
I was gonna say you need to hit up Mr. Elon Musk, see if he can get you a satellite.
Yeah, right now the options for satellite are doo-doo, man, and they cost a ton of money. Satellite internet, like, it's worse than what we currently have, and it's about 3 times as much. It's silly.
Jeez.
So
now you're gonna be able to. Are you still gonna be able to get like good internet? I mean, you're running off your tower or your little hotspot right now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's like a hotspot router. It's a specialty thing. It's not like a jetpack from like Verizon. It's like its own little router with antennas on it.
Yeah.
At best, we can get close to about 15 to 20 down on a really good day. There's a couple things I'm thinking about trying. Putting up a really tall mast with a Yagi antenna pointed directly at our local tower probably would help, aside from the little bitty antennas that are on this thing. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, when I'll tell you this now, like when Brandy and we were up in Cooperstown staying in a log cabin in the middle of like bumfuck nowhere. I did the same thing. We had to get AT&T, and they had like this, router device. You put the SIM card into it, and it's like a big thing with antennas. And I had to move that all around the house. I found out that like up in the very highest part of the roof, because it was like a log cabin, there was like a little ledge, and if I put it up there, I got the best signal, which was like 3 bars out of 4.
Yeah. And
then I just ran an Ethernet down to my PC. But yeah, I was looking at all that crap, like getting bigger antennas, longer cables, all that fun stuff, getting like a directional satellite like pad disc thing that you can stick up in a like, oh god.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I've got a leftover like 200-foot tall mast, like antenna mast that we're probably gonna put up here, but I mean I got to get the antenna first. And that's like $500. So like I said, it's just a bunch of little things that cost a good bit of money. So you got to like stage it out to get things back to normal.
Yeah, stagger it all out.
Yep, because I mean, like the spot behind the RV, there's like this hill there, and because everything just got done, like it just terraformed and everything, it's all mud, and so like it's been raining nonstop, so that it's just like a big muddy mess behind the RV. Like you walk back there, and your shoes just sink into it, and you got clumps of clay on the bottom of your face. It's disgusting. I mean, we're gonna put a retaining wall there. We're gonna do a bunch of cool stuff. I actually just bought a shed. Which will be my workshop. Dude, I'm so excited about having a workshop. I can't even begin to describe my excitement for that. Because, like, in the RV, like, we got a lot of space. Like, we've got a big desk here. It's probably, like, 9 or 10 foot long, and my wife and I can work side by side at it, no problem. But, like, to do, like I talked about doing the Arduino stuff, I can't, like, spread out here and, like, have a bunch of crap everywhere, you know? So having a workshop will allow me to do that. Anyway, it's been that. Media wise, because we haven't had super good internet, I kind of been limited on what I can do. So I started playing Fallout 4 again. I haven't played 4 in a while. I like playing that with mods. I installed a couple sets of mods, which I've done in the past, which make that game a lot of fun. So there are mods that you can put on there to make it to where the ghouls act like zombies, so slow walking. Headshots really only kill them.
Nice.
Yeah, so and you can replace like all the raiders with zombies. You can replace all the animals with zombies. So basically, you can make it like a zombie apocalypse. And dude, like there will be crowds of like 50 of them. So like when you walk downtown, like downtown Boston, the streets are just like full of these zombies. Anyway, so I sided with the Brotherhood of Steel. And, you know, we use the vertibirds, which are like the helicopters, and it's so much fun. Yeah. You throw down the flare to get the vertibird to come in, and that attracts zombies in. So you have to hold off the landing zone waiting for the bird to land, and then you have to get onto the bird, and like when you're landing, you have to clear the landing zone. Dude, it's a whole nother experience. It's a lot of fun. So I've been doing that, which has kept me entertained. We did start watching an anime that I watched a long time ago. Called Eureka 7. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not.
I have not. No.
It's kind of like if you took the character of Deku from My Hero Academia and put him in like a more lighthearted Cowboy Bebop. It is exactly this show. Some kid who wants to be doing things that, you know, he's always dreamed about, getting picked up by this crew of like bounty hunters or whatever, and I don't know. It's a neat show. I think you guys would like it. It's worth a watch. But we've been watching that here recently on our 0.5 down internet. So yeah, it's that's pretty much been my week, just moving and stuff. Ricky, what about you, man?
Yes, sir. So I've had a fun week myself. We're actually having a lot of work done out at the house here now. We've been having water issues. Like basically the basement has had water leaking into it for a very long time now. And we're finally actually able to get it resolved. So we've had people out here with jackhammers digging down into our driveway to get down into the basement, dig all that dirt up and concrete up out of the way so they can get in there and patch everything up and repaint, put all the concrete and everything back. So it's been a living hell for this past week, especially with Penny just losing her mind nonstop. So yeah, I
bet the workers love that.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's just a fun time for everybody involved. It's super great. I don't think that they can hear her just because of all the heavy machinery and everything that's going on. It's really just me that's suffering. So that's been great. I've been really enjoying that. But it'll be worth it in the end, I hope, to where our house doesn't collapse while we're sleeping one night. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of dogs, I actually had a pretty cool encounter slash strange encounter with a dog. So I was taking up the trash earlier this week, and at night. No. This is I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock. So almost
it's a SpongeBob reference, Ricky. Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, okay. I wasn't ready for SpongeBob.
Good try. Don't patronize me. Just carry on.
So, but yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, it was not at night. It was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. Taking out the trash, and as I open up my car door, because I put the trash, because we have a very steep hill, and at the top of the hill is where we put the trash. So I've got like a dedicated cardboard box where I put my trash bags in the back of the hatchback, or the back of the, I guess it's a hatchback. Then load it up there and throw it in the trash. But as I open up my door, there's just this sad, lost looking dog just staring at me like, please help me. I don't know where I am. Please help me. Come on, man, please. So I kneeled down, called him over, and I was looking at his tags, and it had his name and the phone number on the back of the tag. And this dog's name is literally Haha. H-A-H-A. Ha! I was like, no way, this dog's name is Haha. So to make things even more interesting, I was looking at the number to see if I can get a hold of the owner, and it had every single digit except for the very last one. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, dude! Like, so I had to dial the number, and then all right, let me just put a 0 at the end of it. Hit send. Hey, strange call, but you wouldn't happen to have a dog named Haha, would you? So I had to do that with 0, 1, 2, and then I think 3 finally. Luckily, it was closer to the beginning of
thought for sure it'd be like a 9.
Yeah, I was like, it's gonna be the last one for sure. But yeah, finally I was like, yeah, you don't have a dog named Haha, do you? She's like, oh yeah, it's not a strange call at all. He's a wanderer. So, but yeah.
What if they told you like it was just a practical joke, like altogether? Like they got a random dog that caller and left out the last number, just to screw.
And they're sitting in the bushes, with a camera just recording.
Like Ashton
look at this idiot.
Ashton Kutcher comes out. Gotcha. Or that what is that show? Like, what would you do? Hi, so these are all actors. Haha here is a famous Hollywood canine. So
this is actually Wishbone.
Yeah. What's the story, man? I thought Wishbone was long dead, but turns out he ain't, and he's a different breed. So, who knew? So yeah, that was pretty fun. Other than that, nothing really, other than just work. But nobody wants to hear about that. So media-wise, I got to play a little bit more of The Medium, which is the Resident Evil / Silent Hill-esque video game. Played a little bit more of it. So now demons have actually started showing up, so that's pretty interesting. It's a little bit of a slow burn. I don't really know if I can recommend it as of yet, but stay tuned for updates. I'll be playing that a little bit more. Honestly, I've really been playing a lot of video games at this week. Like, I only played it for a few hours, so we're still towards the beginning of the medium, but I'm not hating it, but I'm not also blown away. It's that kind of situation. So Valentine's Day is today, and a little video game actually came out on Friday called Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. So my understanding with this game is Super Mario 3D World was actually originally on the Wii U, and this is like a port now to the Switch. But Bowser's Fury, which is like another like add-on game that comes with it, is a completely new experience where apparently it's Mario teaming up with Bowser Jr. That is a character apparently.
Which Bowser Jr.?
He's honestly, I don't know. Like, he's like floating. He's got a little like clown floating chair.
Yeah.
And he has a giant paintbrush.
Yeah. He was in I think he was in Paper Mario. He was in Yoshi's Story. He was in a bunch of them.
Yeah, I've seen him around, but I don't know. I'm not like super knowledgeable in the Mario lore. So I know the red one is Mario, the green one's Luigi.
Both of them look the same.
Yeah, you ask them if they want an ice cream cone. Both of them say yes.
How in the hell?
How in the hell? Well, they're twins. That's why. But yeah. So Amanda was actually strongly hinting that she wanted to play that. So I got that for her. I actually got her another Switch dock as well, because actually when I went in there, it's kind of a sad story. Come to find out, my local GameStop is closing.
What?
It's a very sad day.
Wow. Wonder what caused that.
Yeah, didn't see it coming. Probably had nothing to do with the fact that nobody goes in there anymore, or that their stocks are crashing. I actually looked at. Yeah, I think their stocks are like back down to like 42. I think was when I was looking at it yesterday. So,
no kidding.
But yeah, they are definitely significantly less than what they were last time we talked about their stocks. So, but yeah, it's kind of sad, man. I've got I don't know. GameStop's not the ideal place to shop, I suppose, but I've got some nostalgia for it. I've been going there since I was a little kid, really. So I don't know. It's sad to see it go, but they had like a 10 to like 30% off everything sale in the store because they were trying to ship everything out of there.
Everything, like even like new games.
Well, except for new stuff like new consoles and like brand new. I think actually brand new video games were 10% off. Yeah,
Jesus.
But like brand new consoles, I think were the exclusion, which they don't have the new Xbox or PS5 anyway. So. It's like new, old consoles. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it kind of I got like flashbacks to Movie Gallery, because which if you guys don't, I know you guys probably know what Movie Gallery is, but for our listeners, Movie Gallery is it's like a Blockbuster, movie/video game rental type place, and our local one shut down as well. I've actually experienced that multiple times actually with the different towns and cities around. But they always have like super good deals of because they're trying to like flush all that stock out of the stores, so they don't just have all that on hand afterwards. So you can get a lot of really good stuff for really cheap.
We just need to go back to the Blockbuster days.
I mean, I remember Movie Gallery. Yeah, Movie Gallery was crazy. Like it always had every Movie Gallery smelled the exact same too.
Was it a good smell or was
it was Movie Gallery?
It smelled like new plastic.
It was like Movie Gallery, man. Like you walk into a Payless shoes, it smells like Payless shoes. Like Movie Galleries smelled like Movie Gallery. I don't know, man.
Yeah, yeah. There was something magical about those places, man. I do miss it. You do have like the mom and pop type stores that do that kind of stuff nowadays, but half the time, especially with this past year, a lot of them I don't think have really survived, or they're severely struggling. But yeah, it is definitely a dying art form, and same goes with GameStop, because everything's just moving to digital. Which on one hand, it's really nice that you can just have everything, but it's at the cost of the brick and mortar stuff. So just to quickly cap that off, I actually bought because they had a really good deal on a Switch dock. I wanted to get because we have only one Switch, which of course only has one dock. So I wanted to actually get a second dock so we could just take the console out of the other one and put it like in the bedroom and the living room, instead of having to unplug everything and bring it in there. Got it home, and the thing was just busted right out of the gate, and that was the only one they had. So brought it back and ended up getting her I got her the Pro controller for the Switch because she was having a lot of issues with stick drift on the Switch controllers, which is a pretty widely known issue apparently with the Joy-Cons in particular.
Yep.
So
really annoying.
I don't think that's and to compound that, the fact that Nintendo is not really interested in doing anything about it just makes it even more frustrating. It's like the 360 Xbox 360 days when you had the Red Ring of Death, but it's like they lost like tons and tons of money.
Or PlayStation
Microsoft did them.
Oh wait, none of their consoles actually had any problems because they're superior. But whatever.
Funny joke. Okay, so movies. I didn't play a lot of video games, but I did watch quite a bit of movies this week, and I'll go through them here starting now. So the first one I watched was a new movie that's actually in theaters right now, but it's on HBO Max as well. It's part of so WB apparently is doing a thing this year where for all their movies, like their new releases that are going to be in theaters, they are also going to be on HBO Max for a timed event. I think the first one they did it with was Wonder Woman 1984. Which I thought it was going to be on there for good, but apparently it's only for like a month or just a couple weeks that you can watch it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
I told you that when we were talking about it like a few podcasts back.
Oh, did we? Well,
yeah, I was just like,
I guess I missed that part. I was like, oh, it's on there. Probably not going to watch it. So I might have tuned out. But
like, oh, Michael's talking.
Yeah. What time is it? No, so I watched the movie on there called The Little Things, which actually it's got Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and the guy that plays Mr. Robot. I've never actually I know of this guy, but I've never actually watched him in anything. But I've heard good things about him. He was in a show called Mr. Robot that got a lot of awards. He was in Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie about Queen. He plays Freddie Mercury in that. And he's also going to be the Bond, the new Bond villain in the movie that's supposed to be coming out later on this year. And I cannot remember the dude's name, but that guy. So these really high tier actors all together. I was like, oh, dude, this looks really good. Tried to get a free trial for HBO Max, but apparently those don't exist anymore. So I broke down and busted out the $15. But basically what it's about is a serial killer in LA. It's in the 90s. What I thought was pretty interesting is they actually reference, I was talking about the Netflix little mini series about a serial killer in LA in the 90s called The Night Stalker. And they actually referenced that guy in this movie. So I was like, wow, what perfect timing. I would have had no idea who the hell they were talking about if I watched this just a few days earlier. But it's about basically, like I said, about a serial killer. It's, a whodunit. You got Denzel, who's the old cop, and then Mr. Robot, which is the new cop. And he's the new hot shot on the block. So they kind of team up and try to figure out who done it. So there's little twists and turns throughout. Kind of a slow drama.
Isn't that the exact same plot from Lethal Weapon?
Pretty much, yeah. Just basically,
shot for shot remake.
Take out Mel Gibson, insert Denzel.
Wait,
bada bing, bada boom.
Wasn't Mel Gibson the? Never mind. That doesn't matter. It's the same movie, Ricky.
Yes. So yeah, and that's actually how I kind of felt about this movie. I felt like I've seen this movie before. Like, this is a very standard kind of serial killer movie, really. So it didn't really blow my mind, but I feel like if you're into that sort of stuff, I think it's worth a watch.
Or
it's
Seven.
Not going to be the
sounds like Seven too.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt and
oh yeah, I watched that movie.
God,
Morgan Freeman. Yeah,
weird.
God.
Yeah, God.
The penguin guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you're into serial killers and that sort of things, it's definitely worth a watch, especially because I think it's only on until the end of this month. So, yeah, worth a watch. So since I had HBO Max, I was like, well, let me peruse the movies here. Let me see what else we got on here. So I actually came across a little movie called Jojo Rabbit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one or not, but
yeah, saw commercials.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Yeah, that's got Scarlett Johansson in it.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to watch this movie for years now, but I never, I guess, really found the opportunity to do so. But yeah, so it's I guess like a dark comedy that's set in World War II. It's about a 10-year-old kid who's in the Hitler Youth, and basically has Hitler as an imaginary friend. And in this kid's mind, Hitler is this whole peppy, I don't know.
He's a funny,
go-get him
character.
Attitude. Yeah. So, but yeah, for me personally, the comedy kind of it felt kind of played out for me. In the back of my head, I'm like Family Guy's made all these jokes a decade ago. That's just kind of how I felt while I was watching that. Hitler's not such a bad guy. It's like that type of stuff, So, that part was all right. But at a certain point in the movie, it kind of switches gears, and you're like, oh shit, okay, this is a different movie all of a sudden. And from that point on, I kind of got hooked. So this movie, just to kind of summarize it, it was like if Inglourious Bastards and the boy in the striped pajamas like had a kid that was a movie, and that's pretty much the best way to keep it.
Yeah, I guess that's a good correlation.
I never saw striped pajamas, but I did see Inglourious Bastards. It's one of my wife's favorite movies. So
yeah, it took me a minute to actually enjoy that movie. The first time I watched Inglourious Bastards, I was like, "This is fucking stupid."
I was the same way actually, but the second time I watched it, I was like, "This is, dude." The opening to that movie is fantastic with like the family that's in the house, and you just see that black car coming down the road, and it's like it's not a horror movie, but that was absolutely terrifying. With and there's elements of that in Jojo Rabbit as well, and that was really where things started to kick up for me. So of course that's on HBO Max. Boy in the Striped Pajamas is on there as well. I have that bookmarked. Haven't watched it yet. I watched it years ago, but I'm going to watch it again before my month's up. But talking about World War II, I watched Dunkirk, which is a Christopher Nolan movie. I believe it was the movie that he made just before he did Tenet. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. And it's basically about there's like 300,000 to 400,000 soldiers that were trapped on the beach in a town called Dunkirk by the Nazis, and it's it's a movie about like different perspectives of what happens in this whole time frame of them trying to escape. Really, really well done movie. I enjoyed it. I believe I watched that in theaters with Amanda. I don't remember, but I know I've seen it before. But I enjoyed this on the second watch too. So but yeah, those are good movies. So really quickly, I'll just go over. I have one more major movie I want to talk about, but I did watch another. It's a documentary also on HBO Max. There's a lot of good stuff on there. I didn't realize, but as I'm just scrolling through it, bookmark that, bookmark this, bookmark that. But I watched a documentary about Hayao Miyazaki. I don't particularly know how to pronounce his first name, but essentially he's the one of the co-founders of Studio Ghibli. And this is a documentary of just like his life. I believe this was like shot between like 2013 and 2015. And this takes place like right after he announces his retirement in 2013. And I mean, it's literally just some dude with a camera following him around in his house and his workshop and whatnot. And it's about him starting to, he quits, and then he realizes that, retirement's not really all that fun. And he starts to get that itch again to start making movies, but he has a really hard time. Like, he wants to make movies, but at the same time, it's really hard for him to get motivated to do it. He's really he's up in his age. I think he was like in his late 70s. So he's like, I'm just going to start this thing and then I'm just going to die. So what's kind of the point, So, but it's also interesting because it was kind of like his like something just wasn't the same. Like, he wasn't feeling the spark, and then he kind of came across the world of CG, and kind of assembles this team to bring his vision of hand-drawn animation into CG, and they kind of do like a fusion between the two. So that was kind of the description of the movie, and that kind of piqued my interest because I had also heard that Studio Ghibli actually just came out with a brand new full-length, for the first time ever, a full-length CGI movie. And that is actually what I watched. It's the movie I actually watched earlier today. And, Studio Ghibli, I love them. They got some of the coolest and timeless animation that I've ever seen. Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, all kinds of classics. So I'm like, okay, this could be cool. This could also be terrible, but it could also be really cool. Turns out it was terrible. Wow. And when I say terrible, I mean, holy damn, this movie was bad. So this was actually directed by Goro Miyazaki, which is the co-founder of Ghibli's son. He's directed a few other of the previous Ghibli movies that are all hand drawn. But like I said, this is their first foray into CG. So the first thing that really kind of strikes you is like, wow, this is definitely not a Pixar movie. This art style is, it is certainly an art style. I don't know. It's kind of like they're in that uncanny valley where it's like they're human, but they don't really quite nail the mark. Like the facial animations and everything is like, it's just weird. It's just off-putting. The story, awful. You know, traditionally you would think there was, like you have a beginning, a middle, and an end to a movie. What I kind of feel like what happened with this movie is they started it. Okay, it's like, all right, we got to start this movie, get her to the point where things start to happen. Nothing is going to happen. And then right when the story starts, the movie ends. And that was the movie.
So basically, they skipped the beginning and the middle, and they just went to the end.
It's like
the whole entire movie.
They had an interesting setup. It's like, okay, and I'll just kind of briefly describe what it is. It's an orphan that was left. That basically she's an orphan girl who, unbeknownst to her, is a witch, and that's kind of the setup. So she gets a home with a witch. So it pretty much it's the witch being an asshole to the girl over and over and over and over again, and then the movie ends. Yeah. Like there's no character progression whatsoever. It just I think they were just making it up as they went, and they said, well, we ran out of money, ship it. So yeah.
Wait a minute, we haven't written the end. It doesn't matter. It's an hour and a half long.
Just we're out of money. What don't you understand? Roll credits. So, but yeah, the name of this movie was Earwig and the Witch. And if that sounds like your type of movie, have at it. But my God,
was it as good as Llamageddon?
I mean, Llamageddon was bad on purpose, I feel like. So that's what made it so great. This movie was just bad.
I just imagine it's like in the middle of dialogue and it just ends. Black screen, credits start.
I mean, that pretty much is what happened. It's like, really? Oh, okay. When you said that, like, so that's one of the other things too, like with this being a Japanese film studio, you can get away with like the flaps of the mouth in animation, like whenever they do like dubs in English, because there is no Japanese option for this. So you have like, it's almost like when you watch like dubbed like old like kung fu movies where the mouth just does not match up with what they're saying in English, and that was just rampant throughout this entire movie as well. Oh boy, it is a train wreck.
The Canadians in South Park, where their head just
yeah. I mean, you're not too far off, man. It's I don't know. Like, I almost feel like it's kind of worth watching it just to watch this train wreck of a movie.
We can watch it and then rate how bad it is.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like, it's so bad. I had texted you guys earlier about it. I didn't tell you what the movie was or anything, but I was like, I just watched a movie, and to borrow Chris's phrasing, I was offended, and I was offended. Not a good movie. So. But yeah, so now that I've talked you guys' ear off about stuff that I've watched this week, let's Mike, what about you, man? What'd you do?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, man. So last week I went up to St. Louis, Missouri, froze my ass off for a couple days, and the winter weather storm has been going through the Northeast and the mid United States. Delayed one of the packages that I needed to do my job. So I pretty much went to site. They weren't expecting me. I didn't have the package delivered, and so I flew out the next morning and came home. Now I'm going to St. Louis next week for a package that should arrive on Monday, and now I'm going to finish the job that I started.
You sound like Kylo Ren. Grandfather, I'm going to finish what you started.
Yeah. Pretty much. So I mean, work-wise, that's pretty much all I did this week. And I did do a project, so I made that mobile air, clean air cart. So I repurposed a blower motor from the AC unit that we had replaced. So I kept the old unit, took the motor out of it. It's like a 240 volt fan, squirrel cage fan that's got 3 speeds on it. And so I built a rectangular box and I put 4 air filters. I've seen one other person do it, and I was just like, oh, that'd be ingenious. Initially, I was planning on just putting that fan and having it as like a fan for the hot summer months and having that air circulate throughout the garage and not put different speeds on it or anything like that. So anyway, I went to Lowe's, picked up a whole bunch of wood, built a frame, and so it's got 4 20 by 25 inch filters all the way around it, and then underneath it has the actual blower fan. And then I wired up a box with a 3-speed switch, and I have an e-stop button on it just for fun, but I broke it, so I have to replace that. But
was it an emergency when you hit it?
No, I stuck it together. So you stick it together and it's got special hooks on it. Well, once you click it together, it's not meant to come back off. So I was like, oh cool, stick, and I'm like, fuck. So when I try to break it off, both those hooks that clip into that button snapped. So when you try to click it in, it just falls apart.
Sits there, yeah.
And so I'm just like, damn it. So anyway, so
Can't have an emergency now.
Yeah. So I had to order a new one, but it works. It has 3 speeds. You just can't e-stop it. You can still turn it off. And man, that thing blows like crazy. I mean, of course, it's a AC. It's an AC fan. So I mean, you think of how much air that moves for your house with all the ducts that you have, and actually being able to feel stuff. Feel the air coming out of the registers. Putting that in a fan, I could literally just put it anywhere in any direction, and I will blow anything off the table. Anything. That's how powerful
if you
it
turn
is.
it
You walk in
upside
front
down,
of it.
if you turn it upside down, does it levitate like a hovercraft?
I am pretty sure it could.
That would be cool.
I'm pretty sure it's powerful enough that if you set it upside down, it would actually just like tip itself
Is it
over
meant to blow
with how
things
much
off of
speed
the
it has.
table, Michael?
No, it's not. But I had a whole bunch of papers on my Miata in the garage, and when I turned it on, they just went just all my manuals. I had like a whole stack of like 10 manuals from all my machines and stuff like that. I was putting them in a pile. Didn't realize it was pointed towards it. Turned the fan on, and that was at the lowest setting too, and it just went poof. And I'm like,
It's just the camera pans over and Marilyn Monroe.
There you go.
Yeah, it's pushing it.
yeah.
I guess
should've
Marilyn
just had
Manson
Brandy.
could
Like,
wear
hey,
the
babe.
white flowing dress, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could.
I'll have Brandy go in there wearing a nice summer dress and be like, hey babe, stand right here.
I'm sure someone's photoshopped that.
She just goes flying through the drywall.
Marilyn Manson with the dress on.
Surely that exists.
Yeah, probably somebody's Google it too, like Marilyn Manson upskirt wind shot, photo shoot.
Oh,
But so I did that, and of course been enjoying this long weekend. Been playing lots of Battlefield. I'm at like 129 or 130 out of 140 for my levels, so it's double XP weekend. So I've been trying to grind that, and just doing some house projects and getting things organized. So I mean that's pretty much about that. That's pretty much about it for me. I mean I honestly don't think I did anything else big. I mean the wife and I went out to a date for Valentine's Day. Yeah, it's I mean honestly yeah. And since we got water in the garage, all the paint that I put on the ground or put on the concrete has started bubble. So I have to tear up all that paint. So I've been slowly like layering paint thinner all over my garage floor and then scraping up the paint and then using my grinder with a brush to grind it all off. So so that's a slow project that I've been doing as well. But other than that, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean I'm sure there's other things I've done, but I can't remember. So, but it was a pretty fun week. I mean, I spent a lot of time building that air clean cart. So, I mean, it's gonna keep that garage cool and trap a lot of dust, especially when I start woodworking. So, because that's the ultimate goal is to start woodworking in that garage. But that's like I said, that's it for me. How about we get into this fun, exciting topic, which I said earlier, which I think we're gonna touch on some aliens.
Cue X-Files theme music.
Dun, 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 dun.
AKA Illuminati theme.
Yep. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about aliens and whether or not we believe in all that and maybe dabble into some conspiracy theories, some top secret projects that we think are cool. Just getting that sci-fi, extraterrestrial UFO nonsense. Well, I don't think it's nonsense, but anyway. So first question is, might as well start it off. Do you guys believe that aliens, as in the extraterrestrial creatures, exist? Like the ones that walk around, it can look like anything. I mean, like I know the normal look is, gray creature, long oval head with big black,
the grays.
Yeah, dark eyes that fly on UFOs that like to stick probes up people's butts, and call it science. So, what do you guys think about aliens?
Yeah, I mean, I think the universe is just entirely too big for us to be the only things that exist in the entirety of it all. There's just no way. I cannot fathom for one, I cannot fathom how large the universe is, and with that being a fact, like there's no way. I mean, maybe in our solar system, I can maybe see like us being the only living things, or I guess the only sentient beings, if you will. But it's just entirely too large. Like just the chances, or I guess the percentages of nothing else existing like that is just doesn't make sense. I think it's just mathematically more probable for something else to exist than for it to not.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Chris?
I'll just go with what Ricky said. Mathematically, it makes sense that there would be, but if you guys have never heard of the Fermi Paradox, I firmly believe.
Describe that.
I don't think I have, actually.
Yeah. So the Fermi Paradox basically describes life as if it does exist, we would never know about it. If there is extraterrestrial life, there would be no way for us to know about it. It goes into the card something, the scale of civilizations to type 1, 2, and 3. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. We're at a 0.73. If there was a larger civilization, we would never know about them. Just because of like great filters, and that's a long, confusing thing I can go into, which I feel like we're going to later. But I think if there's anything outside of our galaxy, there is no way we would ever know about that. It would have to be within our own galaxy, and I feel like if there was some inner solar system traveling species, we would have seen some sort of evidence of them by now. But whatever.
Oh, okay. So I had a Wikipedia, and it says there have been many attempts to explain it, the Fermi Paradox, primarily suggesting that intelligent extraterrestrial beings are extremely rare, that the lifetime of such civilization is short, or that they exist, but for various reasons there is no evidence. Right. So it looks like they're trying to say that, like, yeah, even if they do exist, that their overall lifespan, kind of like the dinosaurs, is short. So for them to be able to reach us,
I mean,
within their lifespan or their life, so it's like, their whole existence would be very rare.
Yeah.
So it's like if a tree falls in a forest but no one's around, does it exist? Did it happen, or did it make a sound?
I mean, the big part of it is like, how long has how long has the galaxy been around? The universe been around like billions and billions of years. Humans have only been around for a very, very small amount of that. The whole thing about great filters is that it's something that every single living species hits, and either it ends it or they move to the next phase. And maybe those great filters are really difficult to get beyond. Maybe we as humans are one of the few species that have actually made it past those great filters. The early stages of complex life forming. So maybe life forming on other planets is really, really rare, and we're really, really rare. But I don't know, like the idea of other species traveling to this planet just to like look at us and put things up our butts, I don't really believe in that. I think that's pretty unlikely.
Yeah. I'd have to say I'm on the same boat. Like aliens existing, as like the gray and black-eyed creatures or other life. Now, it is very rare. I think that there is life on other planets, but you're talking about like organisms, or you're talking about like microscopic, bacteria, or things like that on other planets. I think that's more reasonable to expect than, say, like, a Michael that's, got 10 hands instead of, fingers, and living on, Kableepistan over here, this planet that's like 92. I don't know. I was trying to think of some sort of like scientific planet name or something like
the planet Blip-Blorp.
Yeah, Blip-Blorp, Earth, or whatever. But yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I've always, you always see these UFO stories, and you always see like, oh yeah, I was probed, or Alf probed me, all this fun stuff. But it's just always made me think. But I just, knowing enough about military, I sit there, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of like UFOs for me, or aliens and UFOs kind of tie into these conspiracy theories and these projects in the military, because a lot of those are top secret, and if something's top secret, only a few people are going to know about it, and only some people are going to see that actual experiment in real life, and you might have like a outside witness, but not everybody's going to know about it because it's top secret. It's under, it's hush hush. But you have those leaks with these like UFOs and these sightings, so it all ties into the same thing. And I know one of the biggest things was like Roswell. Roswell was the big thing that everybody, was confused about with aliens. And hold on, I had it pulled up on one of my billions of freaking tabs over here. Jesus Christ. But now I've lost it. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So the general consensus is, Ricky, you believe that it is possible.
Yeah, definitely.
That there is
if not, other sentient life, at or around our level, if not beyond our level of consciousness, like without a shadow of a doubt, there is absolutely like bacteria or microscopic organisms somewhere else in the universe, if not our galaxy. There's just way too many stars and planets for that to not happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely could agree with that one. I just always thought aliens, like those creatures that we all see, is just like absolutely weird. Like what I'm curious about is honestly how that came about. And honestly, I have not done the research on that, but who was the first person who thought they saw a gray figured creature?
I looked that up a long time ago. It was a couple driving, and they thought they saw aliens, and then to figure out what they saw, like this person doing hypnosis hypnotized them into like this trance state, and that's where we all got the definition of like the little green men with the big eyes. Like it all came from this couple who recanted the same thing happening. But yeah, I mean, one of my irrational fears a long time ago when I was a teenager was like aliens. I used to drive. We lived out in the country, so I drove 45 minutes to get to house from everything, so I drove on some really back roads, and like, yeah, one of my irrational fears when it was like really late at night was like just being in the middle of these like long open fields and seeing something, or like something coming down. So I did some research to get past those irrational fears.
It's like knowledge is power,
dude. Yeah, that I'm the same way. Like it's still a little bit. It honestly kind of freaks me out. Like there's two things that honestly kind of chill me to the bone, and one of those is aliens. Like if something were to happen like that, I would be terrified. If like a big like shining light comes out of nowhere, like you said, like as you're driving down the road, or like you actually see something like that zipping around in the sky, something like unexplainable like that you've seen people talk about. And cults scare the hell out of me. Like I just had this irrational fear of just walking in the woods in the middle of the night and then coming across people all dressed the same in hoods and masks and whatnot in the middle of the woods. Like that.
Okay, cults. I think you said colts, like COLT.
Like a horse,
like the football team, but I thought you meant like a horse. I didn't realize you meant cult.
Cults.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are scary too. I mean, like if if you do research on like cities and whatnot and what cults are prevalent in those areas, it's actually kind of creepy on like how big some of these cults are. And I don't know if it's New Bern or if it was another bigger city around here. They have cult activity, and they've had kids stolen or missing, and then later found as like pretty much it was chalked up to sacrificing, because that was something that cult did. Yep. And it's just scary and creepy. Yeah. Not only do you have to worry about trafficking kids or people, then you have to worry about these cults that are like, oh yeah, time to sacrifice a virgin, and whatever, and they kidnap, and next thing you know you're dead. Like, oh yeah, I went to a party and we went into the woods and he didn't come back, like, or she didn't come
aliens.
back,
yeah.
And aliens, they got probed, so they got sucked up by that tractor beam and got things up their butt. So for science.
I mean, speaking of like the mathematical possibilities, I did look it up just to get the numbers. So, like I said, if there was life in another galaxy, we would never know. The universe is expanding, of course. Our closest galaxy, which is Andromeda, is to the point where it's so far away now. Even if we left right now with intergalactic spaceships, it would take like 10 million years to get there, or something stupid. It's just not something we can reach. So looking at just like our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. So the Milky Way galaxy consists of 400 billion stars. About 20 billion of those are estimated to be similar to ours, and a fifth of those are estimated to have planets within the Goldilocks zone, which is like where Earth sits. It's close enough to be warm, not far enough to be too cold.
How many?
A fifth of those suns are estimated to have planets in those zones. So only if 0.1% of those were actually inhabitable, that's still 1 million planets with possibility of life. So, I mean, like Ricky said, like mathematically, like what are the odds that we would be the only ones? I don't know. It's like I'm not gonna disparage against the human race or anything, but like I know that we don't have technology that can reach the other side of the Milky Way and listen with perfect clarity. What's to say that another species has the ability to come to a different planet just to like poke around at us like lab rats? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, and you see so many TVs and movie shows that fantasize about this. I mean, like, a very big common one that I think we've pretty much all seen is Rick and Morty. Where you go into different universes, and he's got the portal gun, and there's parallel universes,
Universi.
And Universi, whatever. And there's other Mortys and there's other Ricks, and they're interchangeable. But there's plenty of stories out there where we kind of sell ourselves as like the dumb planet getting into, intergalactic travel, and these beings are way ahead of us. I mean, it's a common thought. It's all around us.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of I don't know. Did you guys ever play Mass Effect, the game series? So that was kind of similar to that. Like we kind of came across this, if I'm remembering correctly, we kind of came across this like ancient structure that basically like gave us the ability to fast forward our technology to have the ability to go to different places in the galaxy, and it was the same thing. There was like an intergalactic citadel where these different alien races came together to. So I don't know. I could see that. I mean, I can see that possibly being a thing, but I can also see it playing out kind of like Avatar, where we're the more advanced species and we're actually the invaders to another alien world where they're still using sticks and stones.
Well, it just makes me think to myself, if you have like a intergalactic hub, where everybody's like flying their spaceships in there, these are people that have learned to traverse space, learned different cultures, and kind of like Star Wars and all that fun stuff. Why have we been left out?
Yeah.
Is what makes me think. Like, if they've got all this technology and travel, and they've been able to fly around and do all this fun stuff, why are they left Earth.
Yeah.
Well,
alone.
Yeah. Another thing. I mean, like, if we were to have, and I looked this up too before the podcast, but if like right now we had the ability to go ahead and start inhabiting other planets, like right this moment. If we went to other planets and inhabited them for 1,000 years, it would take us about 2 million years to inhabit all of those planets I talked about earlier in the Goldilocks zones. So, I mean, 2 million years seems like a long time to us, but when you consider how old everything actually is, billions and billions of years old, 2 million is not that long. If another species had the jump start and evolved into sentient beings like us, way ahead of us, you would imagine that they would have already kind of reached that phase. If human beings keep going, eventually we will go out and we'll inhabit anywhere we can. It's kind of human nature. So yeah, I mean, that's what we start talking about. Like I said, the great filters with like, is it something that always stops life from proceeding to that point? Past a certain type, like type 1 through 3s or whatever. Or possibly there is a Type 3 civilization that is inside of our Milky Way, and whenever they see a species get too advanced, they just stop that, and then that species is done.
Also Mass Effect.
Yeah. And if that was the case, if there was a Type 3 civilization to us would like appear as gods, so if they even appeared to us at all. So if a Type 3 civilization was out there, we would never know.
You bring that up actually, about us seeing them as gods. There was I'm sure you guys have seen or at least heard of Ancient Aliens on History Channel. So, and that has always really intrigued me as a show. I remember when that first show came out, like I was obsessed with it. Like I was gobbling up anything I could about that show, because I don't know, to me, like it logically makes sense, because it's exactly like you said. If we were to encounter these types of beings, I think there's a quote. It's something or another. I'm paraphrasing, but it's if technology is like far enough, like beyond our understanding, like it's pretty much like indistinguishable from magic, or to an even lesser mind, godlike. So I don't know. You think of these things. There's a book. I think he's actually one of the he talks on the Ancient Alien show a lot of the time, but it's a guy who wrote a book called Chariots of the Gods, and it's pretty much he founded or came up with, at least was the first person to publish the idea of Ancient Aliens, which is essentially where we have these different religions all around the world that all kind of sprung up individually, yet at the same time they all have very similar characteristics. In all parts of the globe, all of these religions, for whatever reason, whether it be circumstance or something that actually connects all of these things, they do have a lot of similarities to them. So I don't know, it kind of makes you think, like, do we interpret like these advanced alien beings that were on our planet thousands of years ago as gods? Like, I can absolutely see that being something that could happen. Because, and the reason I say that makes it even more plausible is I think it was actually in World War II, there was a Pacific island where the Allies actually used it as an air base. Like, they would actually like land their planes, and that they had like made like airstrips and whatnot. It's basically like a forward operating base to go and attack, Japan and in the Pacific and whatnot. And the people, I guess the natives, right, of the island.
Indigenous.
Yes, that was the word I was thinking of. The indigenous people of the island actually worshipped the planes and the army, the people that were there. They actually built like monuments that of planes and whatnot to beg them for the gods, the sky gods, to come back. Because they were giving them food and clothes and shelter and whatnot. And then once the war was over, they got the hell out of there. So they built all these altars and everything and worshipped them as gods. And I can absolutely see that just playing out on a more, grand scale of humanity, where these beings came from outer space, did what they needed to do, and either we killed them off or they pieced out for whatever reason, and we're doing the exact same thing, with but except like in the form of religion.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I've thought about that too,
no,
and like the implications. Like, let's say tomorrow it is announced that, by the way, there is alien life and they've landed at the White House. like that would be next to disastrous for the human race. Like just like think about that. Like the Ricky, this scenario that you just said. Like if that military wanted to, they could have wiped out that entire island because they were so advanced.
Yeah.
Like if an alien species came here with anything except for 100% positive intentions, like it would be really bad. I mean, if they're thousands of years more technically advanced than us, like we are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a Twilight Zone episode, actually something similar to that. These aliens come down to Earth and they're acting all peaceful and everything, and they start space tourism, and they're going to share their technology with mankind, and it's like this big great thing. And they're like, oh, you know, we just want to help out. And so, you know, space tourism's a thing, but you got to wait and reserve your seat to go to this alien planet. And it turns out once you get there, they eat you. So, you know, I feel like when you talk about an advanced species like that, it's like trying to explain to an ant what a roller coaster is. Like, it's so far beyond the ant's comprehension of, one, what a roller coaster is and how it works, or two, why would you even do that? It doesn't have to do with food or protecting its mound. You know, like, it's just completely beyond its comprehension. Yeah. So, like, if the species did come, like, could we even comprehend what they were about? You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's very intriguing, but like you said, it's also like terrifying at the same time. I guess that's why I'm so afraid of them. It's just beyond our understanding, you know. Which is also very strange because, you know, we talk about God the exact same way. So it's like,
I mean, the human race, I mean, we're always, you know, we're fascinated with what we don't know and what is out there. I mean, like, you know, talking about like Roswell, you know, happened in, you know, July of 1947, and, you know, everybody thought it was a UFO. And it wasn't until it became declassified later that we found out exactly what it was. But, you know, you're talking about, you know, and that's the scary thing about, like, say, like, you know, government projects that I find is, like, we've got technology out there that the average human can't even comprehend. It's just not out there. You know, we talked about, and I think I've mentioned it a couple times, you know, when we think about World War II, you know, we think about, you know, Normandy, we think about Dunkirk, we think about, you know, fighting in Europe. We don't think about drones, but they were testing drones in World War II. So when we think of, you know, the 1940s, you know, we're thinking black and white, you know, because you see all the photos of World War II, and they're all black and white. So we feel like it's like ages and decades ago. We couldn't even get colorized film, you know, and, you know, it was such an archaic time. But they were retrofitting B-17s with RF frequency controls, having people take off and then bail out of the plane once it got into its flight path. And they had another mothership, and they were testing that B-17 remote controlled via RF radio controls, and then basically trying to use them as guided missiles. Essentially, they'd load it with bombs and then try to basically just crash it into something, and then that way they could have a targeted system. But you don't think about that when you think about World War II. You know, the people I've talked about, you know, and I've mentioned that, they're like completely blown away. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, you can look up all about it and all the testing that we were doing on top secret aircraft and whatnot. I mean, if I remember right, U-2 spy plane was another one of the ones that came out. First flight in 1955, 10 years. A high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft.
Is that the flying wing?
Yeah, pretty much. It's called a Dragon Lady. Super long wingspan, long, narrow body. It's supposed to climb all the way up to
the recon plane. No, I was thinking it's a
feet.
B-2 bomber, like an idiot. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, that was another one, too. But first, it was proposed in 1953, and first test flight was in 1955, 10 years after World War II.
Yeah, the U-2, not to sound like a gaming nerd, but U-2 on Black Ops story mode, you play as part of a mission as a U-2 spy plane up in the upper atmosphere.
Yep, yeah. I mean, but that technology, we had that technology, and it was advancing. I mean, the F-22 was developed in the 70s. What were you doing in the 70s? Everybody's smoking high and fucking each other, you know. So, you know, that was what the 70s were all about. You know, lots of drugs and you know,
great music though.
You know, great music. But you know, there's these things that the government's working on that we don't even know about and testing on. And so when we see these things, you know, we can't comprehend it because we're so used to what we have. Everything that we have right now, the government's already worked with. Remember in the 90s when we were growing up, we had those little remote controlled cars that were RF frequency. The minute it turned the corner in the house, you lost the signal because it didn't have direct line of sight or contact. They were using that technology on B-17s, and then we got that, years later when the remote control car comes out. So, say 30 years later, in the 70s, 80s, when remote control cars are a thing, and everybody wants a little RC car, well, the government already had it, try to weaponize it, try to make something, out of it, 30 years prior, or however long, beforehand. So whenever we get something, the government's already been using it for forever now. I mean, you think about right now, you think, I think we've hit on it a couple of podcasts. It's like the DJI Mavic drones are, you control them off your cell phone, and you can fly them pretty much anywhere as long as you have some sort of signal. You don't need a direct line of sight for it because it's GPS, and there's the other frequency. There's RF frequency and something else, other frequency. It runs off a different frequency than your remote control cars. So remember when we had our drones as a kid, it was yet again line of sight. Once you lost it or it flew, just out of range, it was done. You had to go either run up to it or run closer into frequency. Now we can pretty much fly anything, anywhere, remote controlled. Well, in the 90s and the 80s, we were flying the Preds. I think the Predator drone was used during the Desert Storm in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So you just think about that as well. Let's see, I'm trying to pull up quick facts on it real quick. Initially conceived in the early 90s. So these drones were, controlled by satellites. And that's what we're playing with now. We have technology that uses satellites to control things. Well, the government was already using it, back in the 90s. Well, you think about in the 90s, you're still playing with the plastic, phones and crap. That was a day before technology, and the government's already using, satellites for controlling drones.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have that in our now we have that years later. Look, the DJI Mavics, those drones are really awesome drones. Well, that's 30 years later that those things are now a big thing hitting the shelf and actually reliable.
So are you saying that Roswell, there's a suspicious jump in technology around the same time as Roswell? Is that what you're suggesting? Kind
of. So I brought up Roswell because that was looking at the images of it now, they say, quote unquote, and a lot of people don't want to believe it, that it was that it was a UFO because it came down when it crashed. It littered aluminum and metal all over the place, and it looked, when it was coming down, like a saucer.
So you're saying that was a drone, or you think that was a drone?
No, actually, it was a high altitude weather
balloon.
Reconnaissance camera. So it had a camera canister on it, and it was a balloon. So they'd fly that balloon up, and that balloon was made out of a metal aluminum type of material, so that when it got up to the upper atmosphere, it could compress or decompress as needed, and be able to float. And then they'd be able to control, they'd kind of float it and fly and predict the airstreams. And be able to fly it over areas at a high altitude. And then later the so that was in 47. Well, you're talking about 6 years later, they had the U-2, and that would actually be able to they could direct that plane and use those same kind of canister and cameras. But people were so blown away because no one ever thought about putting a camera on a balloon and flying it at 40, 50,000, 60,000 feet. And so when it came down, it was deflating. It looked like a saucer, and it blew everybody's mind. So, my reference to the Roswell thing is the technology that we have now in our current life, in our current room, or that's even on the market, the military's had it for years and has used it on some sort of system. And so if we go back 30 years and say, did you know about the F-117, a stealth fighter, back in the Desert Storm, people would blow your mind that you had stealth technology. People couldn't comprehend the technology that was on that fighter jet, or even a remote-controlled drone that you're flying from the United States. that it blows people's minds. Well, the same thing that happened in 47 when that, weather balloon crashed, and everybody couldn't comprehend it. Mm-hmm. Well, the military's been using that and was testing it. And when it crashed and became known, people couldn't comprehend it because they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what they were seeing. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I was kind of alluding to, is like, the government, has had access to these technologies and have been using them for way longer than what we have. So we get used to what we have, but
on a consumer
honestly,
basis.
What we have is old.
You say we get used to what we have from a consumer standpoint, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like like a Bluetooth mouse, everything. Like if you were to introduce like this Apple mouse,
yeah, I get
say
what you're
back
saying.
in early 2000s,
We are on a consumer's level, we are staggered years behind, if not decades behind, what the military's been using. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, I remember, I could be misremembering this, but I do know for a fact there was something published in the newspaper like the night of or the night after the Roswell landing, and then like the military came in and like revised it. Like they changed what the report was. Like it was like a crash landing, and then they later came back and said it was a weather balloon, or it was the reverse. I think it was the first though, like because they originally reported there was some UFO that crashed, and then they later came back and said that it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, so it got released. So there's the I can't remember what it's called, and I can look it up real quick. So when a top secret project is created, after it has been known or been made known, there's like a 70-year time window before it becomes declassified. So the Roswell incident literally just became declassified, I think in 17, because that was 70 years after the incident.
Actually, now that you say 2017, because I was actually trying to look this up as well, because I remember there was, or was it just like last year? Yeah, I think it was like last year when the Pentagon or like the U.S. government like came out and said like, hey, here's some videos of UFOs. We don't know what they are, but here you go. And I remember like the dude Tom from Blink-182 was somehow involved with it. He's like, yeah, those are my videos. I've had those for years now. But yeah, like it was like fighter pilots or whatever had like captured on their onboard cameras like these UFOs, and it's them like freaking out about like what the hell was that? Like I have no idea what that was, and the government came out and said
and that kind of brings me to the same point that I was talking about earlier. Is like we have DJI Mavic drones. Have you seen the racing drones? People race drones through like these tunnels and they're doing sharp turns.
Yeah, actually,
if
I came
they
across
have
that
in their hands,
pretty cool.
Imagine what the government had 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So when we have these sightings of UFOs and these big giant objects that are sitting here and defying gravity and going up, down, moving in a formation, there's just plenty of videos where there's like 6 or 7 like orbs and they're moving, and all of a sudden they just like out of nowhere turn right or turn left, or change their speed.
Yeah.
Well, what have we been doing for New Year's? They big giant New Year celebrations and like events. They've been using drones and configurations and patterns and whatnot. The civilians have that. So we have that now. So when you look back at all these videos in early 2005 in 480p and you can't see shit, and they're these things are flying around. Like that's why I don't necessarily believe necessarily in extraterrestrials or UFOs in that sense, because I believe those to be government projects that were highly classified, top secret, being tested. But it blew people's minds because we're used to an aircraft that goes up, flies, turns left, turns right, slowly, yaws, pitches, all that fun stuff, and flies slowly. So we're used to, aircraft. But then when, airfoil wings, but then they see like this aircraft floating in the sky and it's not moving. It's defying our concept of what aircraft do. And now it's making sudden adjustments and movements. It blows people's minds. Same thing with the fighter pilot. You go through school, you learn about aerodynamics, you learn about your aircraft and how fast it is. If you and then you're flying, you've been taught all this stuff on an aircraft, and then you see something that's defying everything that you were just taught.
Yeah, that's no fun though. That's not aliens. That just sucks all the fun out of aliens.
Yeah, but just like with the Roswell stuff, like you can't just be like, oh yeah, it's a top secret project we're testing and whatnot. Well, if you change the direction of the story. They're like, oh yeah, it must be a UFO. We had no idea about it. It's not our project because they can't admit it. Because if they admit it, then they admit.
But why would the U.S. government come out and say like, "Hey, here's some UFOs. These are unidentified flying objects," and release it to the public? What would be the meaning behind that? Why would they do that?
Well, one of the things is just because you work in the government. Okay, so even though I was attached to, or I was assigned to, AFSOC, Air Force Special Operations Command, just because I worked. And got to do, missions, and we played with SEALs and dropped them and did missions, stuff like that. And that doesn't mean that I had information to learn about everything that was out there. There's different levels of classified materials. There's unclassed, classified, and top secret. But then there's even more above top secret. And you have to be read into those programs. So even if you have say a top secret clearance or a secret clearance, you're not read into other programs.
Yeah, so, I understand that. Like, there's like a need to know basis sort of situation, but I don't know. I just don't understand why. Because this is the Pentagon. The Pentagon officially released UFO videos, and this was like last year, April. So, I mean, I just don't. What would the reasoning behind that be? Is it like a disinformation campaign, or
it very well could be? But those people, in the Pentagon might not have clearance, and if they were asking around and saying, "Hey, does anybody know what these videos are or what these UFOs are?" Anybody who actually knows anything about it can't say anything about it. They can't even admit, like, "Oh yeah, but I can't tell you." They're like, "Yeah, I don't know," even if they know. So, so they can release it as UFOs, and that's that perfect misdirection, like I was saying earlier. It's that perfect misdirection because if you have a whole bunch of people believing in UFOs and extraterrestrial life, you're diverting the public's attention from what's actually going on. So yeah, so I guess like misdirection, misinformation, to keep people.
It could also be a reverse psychology maneuver where they're just trying to desensitize us to the idea of aliens. Maybe they already do know aliens exist and they've been in contact with them, and it's inevitable that we're going to find out about it. So they're kind of softening the blow, like, "Hey, we don't know what these are. Maybe aliens.
Don't worry about it."
Who knows?
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good. We've been talking to him forever. And I mean, who knows? I mean, that's another, conspiracy theory. But yeah, like they could be slowly like, okay, we can't let everybody know right off the bat because they're going to be shocked and, flabbergasted. So we have to slowly say
Do you think that the world would lose its mind if, say, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but we'll just on an individual basis, what do you think you would do if it was 100% confirmed there are aliens on the White House lawn right now? They're shaking hands with Biden as we speak.
Well, if they're shaking hands with the current Biden, current President Biden, then I'm gonna sit there and be like, well, we're fucked.
Mike's like, that's not my president.
They're Democrats.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna be like, okay, cool. So we literally just gave up the clown fool. And just he's making deals with extraterrestrial.
Well, maybe not. Okay, not Biden specific. Let's just say the president, the
president.
generic
any
cartoon
president.
Character.
All right, if we have the ideal president sitting up there, maybe eventually we'll get him. But or her. Don't want to be sexist
Them,
or whatever. But
they.
Whatever president that we have, we'll just blanket it, right? But anyway, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd personally kind of low-key be freaking out, honestly, because just as Chris said, we practically see them as gods, and they have the technology to basically just wipe us out like that if they wanted to. If they had any ill intentions for the human race or society, I'd freak out. I mean, I'd low-key freak out. I wouldn't be going, out there and be like, fuck aliens, fucking piece of shit, the world's gonna die, we're all gonna burn. I would just grab my gun and just chill until the internet went out, I don't know. I'd low-key freak out.
Yeah, because, we see all these alien invasion movies, and I guess it really all just depends on... Because we're really at their mercy at that point.
I think that's the thing. Even whatever they are, whatever they want to do to us, we probably can do nothing about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a War of the Worlds type situation, or it could be like
that's exactly what I was about to say. Like War of the Worlds, we were literally just harvested for our resources. So like, if an alien species came here, would they see it any different as like us going to a forest and cutting down the forest to make room for a new mall? Like, it's just inconsequential to them that there was a species living there because they inhabited multiple planets. If they come here, if they're like, hey, we mean you no harm, I'm going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen this in a movie somewhere.
Not sure about this. It's just, I think it'd be more likely that if there is a species, like a human race, okay, say the human race was the dominant species, if we've inhabited multiple planets. Dude, if a planet came along that was made out of solid diamond, you better believe you would go through there and just, goodbye, hack it off. That's ours. Oh, there's little microorganisms living on this planet.
And my other thought is I wouldn't necessarily, honestly, I don't think I'd be afraid so much of the alien, but of everything else, of everybody else, okay? I mean, everybody freaks out, especially people in the South when you get snow. They panic, they can't drive in the snow. Everybody panicked and freaked out. And, when GameStop, their stocks went through the roof. We have half the country, or the country split in half, who went absolutely crazy when, President Trump took office. And, yet again, another group of people that went absolutely crazy when President Biden took office. Same thing that happened to Obama. Same thing, like, each time we have a president, people freak the fuck out. And go crazy. I mean, you have people that, like watch the Kardashians and get so invested and they're like, oh my God, like this happened, and they freak out. I mean, so it's not necessarily, I don't think the aliens would freak me out as much. I'd be like I said, low key worried about it, but then everybody else, that's panicking, because then you're going to have people who are going to be like, oh no, we're going to die. We're going to get fucked. We're going to get probed. And they're going to go out and they're going to steal all the toilet paper again. All right. And then they're going to steal everything off, take everything off the shelves. We're going to have rioting, and, all this fun stuff, because people will lose their shit. So that's what I'd be worried about, because who's coming for my flat screen TV, or who's coming for,
food,
Mike's,
but yeah, food,
alien species
or my
landing. Mike's like, not my flat screen.
I got a good deal.
But yeah, I mean, you think, that's what I think about, is like, like everybody else freaking out and what everybody else is going to do. Like, everybody else is going to be crazy. What if we're still fighting, like, what if their last pumpkin spice lattes at Starbucks, and, two guys are like, I walk in and I'm like, I want a pumpkin spice latte, and they're like, bitch, that's my pumpkin spice latte, and he pulls a gun. He's like, I'm gonna enjoy my pumpkin spice latte before I go get fucked in the butt
chicken sandwiches from Popeyes.
Wow.
Whatever. I don't know. Okay, but I mean, you see weird shit happen all the time in the world, right? So I
mean, but like that, that's looking at it negatively, which is the way that I typically look at all of life. But I mean, what if that somehow brought us together, like as a planet? I mean, we think of, we don't think of planet Earth as like one group of people. There's lots of different countries, races, beliefs and things like that. Like, what if an alien species did come here and they did have negative intentions, but somehow the human race was able to push back that threat? Would then we unify as a planet and stop, like, get over our nonsensical, like, oh, you believe in something I don't believe in, so... But that doesn't matter, because now there's tentacle monsters coming from space. So let's.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
Temporarily, at least, I would say. Yeah.
Because I mean, like, you look at those futuristic movies where it's like, oh, they're from planet Earth and they're pushing up here. It's like all that, like, race and country and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. You're from Earth. It's not like, oh, they're from this country on Earth. Makes no difference.
Actually, I mean, I think that would be very nice. I mean, having that outlook or perspective, because then we could get past this whole entire conceived notion of identifying people. Either whether it's the color of their skin or their religion, or whether they have a mustache or beard, or whether they're gay, straight, whatever else you want to call yourself. We could,
it's just like
we would have something else to get us past those barricades that we put.
It's like borderline embarrassing. Like if an advanced species did come here, it's like the things that we worry about on this planet are almost like caveman-esque.
Yeah,
like
no, really.
Different colored people. Like, really? That's what you're worried about? Our species over here is worried about space AIDS, but you guys are worried that you're different colors. Like, it's just like it's so like this is one of those things. Like we wouldn't be able to comprehend anything. They'd just be like, all right, so what are the major hang-ups on your planet? Well, this guy over here is a different color than me, so we're trying to kill him. Why? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like we would just we wouldn't understand each other.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
No, I mean that's a great perspective. I mean, maybe we do need a visit from aliens. So maybe our, hey, our tier 3 aliens up there, come set us straight, please. Yeah, it's
Then
weird.
we were invaded.
Yeah, and then we all became harvested for our organs.
Space AIDS cure.
Yep. So it's like, who knew the lower intestine cured space AIDS? So luckily Earth has, plenty of lower intestines that we need. So
You guys got any of that CRISPR left?
yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Pixelated Porch Podcast. Thanks for joining us, friendly nerd gamers, Rick, Chris, and myself, Michael. As we normally do, we do recommendations, and you know what? I would have to recommend some Battlefield 4. Get that game, play it. All right, it's fun. It's old, but it's fun. But then, yet again, on another serious note, because I didn't really honestly have a recommendation for you guys, is you know what? I recommend to everybody that we look to see what we. Chris, how do you say it? How we trivialize these little things that we see as problems? What was it you were saying?
Don't be stupid.
Yeah, so all these things that we create as issues within ourselves. Find out what that is for you and get rid of it. Get past it. Get past that hurdle. So we don't need an alien invasion to set us straight.
As the great William Murderface once said, "Don't be a dick, be a dude."
I love it. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pixelated Porch Podcast. We are out like Girl Scouts. Bye.
This has been the Pixelated Porch Podcast. We are the Friendly Nerds, Ricky, Chris, and Mike. If you'd like to follow us on social media, check us out on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search Pixelated Porch, and also be sure to check out our Discord.
Disclaimer, we all think Hitler's a bad guy, right?
Yes, we do. Hitler's a very bad guy.
Okay. Michael?
Yes.
Say it. Yeah. Mike's like, I don't know.
I like to play devil's advocate every once in a while, so...